This question refers to learning objectives contained within Group 10 of the learning objectives under meteorological information. The question is as follows. At which airport is the following weather development taking place? There then follows a terminal area forecast, a TAF, which is quite long, and we will go through that in detail as to what the decode is slightly later, but you need to find which of the following airfields: Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha, that is Stockholm Arlanda in Sweden there. We have also Echo India November November, so there's Stockholm. Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha. Echo India November November is Shannon in the southwest of the Republic of Ireland. Lima Sierra Zulu Hotel is Zurich, and Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel is Copenhagen Kastrup in Denmark. So which of those airfields on that particular chart does that TAF relate to? Before addressing the question, let's review the actual learning objective that the question is testing. That's the full learning objective. Aviation weather messages: describe, decode, and interpret the following aviation weather messages. And they mention a METAR, a SPECI, a trend. The one we're dealing with, which is a TAF, Terminal Aerodrome Forecast, SIGMETs, AirMets, GAMET for Area Forecast for GA at low level. ARS, actually, that's just the Special Air Report message type designator, and volcanic ash advisory information. So you need to know how to describe, decode, and interpret all of those, but this question is obviously dealing with the TAF. So on the solution, let's decode the TAF first of all. The first letters, 23-1200 Zulu, means it's a terminal area forecast issued on the 23rd of whatever month it was at 1200 UTC. And it covered the period from 1300 UTC to 2200 UTC on the 23rd. Notice this TAF was coded 1322, so 231322. The more usual way you will see it nowadays is 2313/2322. Means the same thing. So the first line of the TAF was the wind is from the southwest, that's 240 degrees at 14 knots, gusting 32. The visibility is 4,000 meters in thunderstorms with heavy rain. The plus RA means it's heavy rain. Cloud-wise, there are 3 to 4 octaves or eighths at 500 feet. There are 5 to 7 octaves, that's broken, at 1,500 feet. And there are 5 to 7 octaves again, that's broken, cumulonimbus clouds at 2,000 feet. So that's the initial weather, but then it says becoming 14 to 16. So it's becoming between 1400 UTC and 1600 UTC. The wind is veering to 290 degrees from the northwest, basically at 12 knots. Visibility is now 10 kilometers or more. That's what 9999 means. Broken at 3,000 feet, 5 to 7 octaves at 3,000 feet with towering cumulus, TCU, and 3 to 4 eighths or scattered cloud at 10,000 feet. The next line is tempo, 1600 UTC to 1900 UTC. So these are temporary fluctuations between 1600 and 1900. And that temporary fluctuation will give 8,000 meters visibility in rain showers with 5 to 7 octaves of towering cumulus at 2,500 feet. And then becoming between 1900 UTC and 2200 UTC, the wind is now changing to 270 degrees or from the west, visibility 10 kilometers or more, 3 to 4 octaves at 3,000 feet, and overcast at 22,000 feet. And the equal sign that you'll see at the end simply signifies the end of the TAF. Before we answer the question, it is actually worth covering the differences between the words becoming and tempo. These definitions come from the World Meteorological Organization's decode for aerodrome forecasts. Becoming, the change indicator becoming is used to describe expected changes which reach or pass specified values at a regular or irregular rate. So it's not a gradual change. It might go better, it might go worse, and back again. But by the end of the period, or by the designator from, till, or at, the new conditions will be there. So the period during which, or the time at which, the change is forecast to occur is indicated by the abbreviations after becoming of from, till, TL, or at. So when the change is forecast to begin and end within the trend forecast, they'll use both from and till. So you'll see becoming from 10:30 till 11:30, and then the new conditions after that. When the change is forecast to start at the beginning of the quoted period, but to be completed before the end of that period, only the abbreviation till will be used. So for example, and this is the WMO's example, the prevailing visibility at the observation was 6 kilometers, but it's expected to decrease, becoming 3,000 meters or 3 kilometers in mist until 1100 UTC. So therefore, that would be written as becoming till 1100, 3000 BR, which is the code for mist. When that change is forecast to begin during the quoted trend forecast period and to be completed at the end of that period, the abbreviation from and its associated time group is used to indicate the beginning of the change. So becoming from 1100. When the change is forecast to occur at a specific time, they will actually quote that specific time. So becoming at 1100, and then the conditions following the group. And this is the way of depicting becoming that you will come across the most. When the change is forecast to start at the beginning of the quoted time and to be completed by the end of that period, or when the change is forecast to occur within that trend period but the time is uncertain, then from, till, or at are omitted and the change indicator simply becomes becoming. It's worth knowing that sometimes things happen at midnight, and when the changes are forecast to take place at midnight UTC, the time is indicated by using 0000 when associated with from and at, but if it's associated with a till, then they will use 2400 for midnight. And that is the definition of becoming. Next, let's have a quick look at tempo. The change group tempo is to describe forecast temporary fluctuations. And on a TAF, the basic rule is that these temporary fluctuations must last for a period of less than 1 hour in each instant, and in total for less than half of the forecast period that the tempo is quoted for. The period during which the temporary fluctuations are expected to occur is indicated by using the abbreviation from and till as required, followed by a time group. So for example, you might see, as described on the slide there, tempo from 10:30 to 11:30, okay, and then the temporary conditions after that group. You might also just have till, if it's going to start at the beginning of the period but end before the end of the period. You get tempo until 11:30 and then the weather conditions. When the period of temporary fluctuations is forecast to begin during the quoted period and to continue throughout the remainder of the period, all they use is the word or the abbreviation from. So tempo from 10:30 and then the temporary fluctuation condition. And this is how you will normally see it in a TAF. It's when the period of the temporary fluctuations is forecast to start at the beginning of that trend period that they quote and to continue throughout the remainder of that period, then the change indicator tempo is used on its own with no from, till, or at. So that's just cleared up the difference between becoming and tempo. Let's go back to the question now. At which airport is the following weather development taking place? And we have now decoded this TAF, so now we can use that to decide which of those 4 airports it refers to. Firstly then, the chart itself, as you can see down at the bottom here, is quoted for 1500 UTC, but the chart, the TAF itself, starts at 1300 UTC. So the initial weather in the TAF at 1300 indicates gusty southwesterly wind, 240, and associated with thunderstorms. And those are embedded in other types of cloud, the broken at 1500, the broken at 2000, which indicates an approaching cold front at 1300. Remember, the chart is for 1500. So by that time, the airfield in question will be behind a cold front. And that becoming 14 to 1600 UTC indicates the passage of the cold front, and what you're now in is typical polar maritime air mass weather. So if you look at all of the different options, ESSA is well ahead of a low pressure, partly occluded system. Lima Sierra Zulu Hotel is Zurich, that's under a ridge of high pressure. And at 1500, Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel, Copenhagen Kastrup is actually going to be just in the warm sector behind a warm front. So the only airfield that would have these conditions or those forecast conditions would be answer B, Echo India November, Shannon in the southwest of the Republic of Ireland.